Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. Today is Thursday, June the 26th, 2025. And Michael was working with the gutter guys and misplaced his phone. He just now found it, so he's dialing in. So give just a minute, and we're glad y'all are with us. Well, Kathy disappeared. She was there, and now she's gone. So maybe she'll come right back in. So we welcome you to the show. A couple of things that are going on. One is Aramaic Fridays is now on the website and on YouTube and on Podetize for January, February, March, and April of 2014. I'm working on it 1 month at a time, so hopefully we'll get that finished. And then also we have a gentleman working to get the where we compared the AA shows to the work and Recovery Wednesdays. So those will be up there soon. And then we got a program that takes hour-long videos that we've got and turns them into shorts. And so I'm in the process of getting those edited and downloaded to my computer so I can upload them to YouTube. So you can watch for those to come up. So we got a lot of things going on. It's been pretty busy. And Michael has now joined us. So I'm going to say welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. Last minute running here, we had these guys putting gutters up, and the last couple of screws they were putting in started to pour rain and bang them and all that kind of fun. So my apology for running a little bit late, but delighted that you're here, delighted that I'm here, delighted that we get to have this human life and have the opportunity to move the process individually and collectively to the next level. So, and I'll just open the space if anybody has anything on your mind, any thoughts, anything moving for you, openings, breakthroughs, questions, answers. Hit that mute button, unmute yourself, and let's go for it.
Okay, I'll bite.
Hey, welcome.
Hi, Michael. Well, Tim Hayes had a great radio show, and it opened up a lot of stuff. And Susan Flueck brought up accidentally, I don't think she intended it to happen that way, but she challenged him on something, and it ended up being on the subject of being special. And I feel as if practically, if not everything I do in my life is to be special. Is to get people to like me, be seen as a good and nice person and a loving person. You know, I don't know if I could ever I can understand what the Course in Miracles is talking about, but I think it's just hopeless. Tim Hayes gave her a mind shifter, but I thought, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. There's no end. I would just do such a great mind shifter that I'd end up feeling special. I just can't imagine getting to the bottom of it. So anyway, yeah, whatever you'd like to say about that, I'm listening.
Well, what I hear you saying is I have to stay in propitiation.
What does that mean? I don't know that word.
Remember T.S. Eliot? Every time I quote T.S. Eliot.
Oh,
just
doing
the
right
highest
thing
treason to the right thing for the wrong reason.
And that's propitiation.
Yeah.
Well,
doing things in order to appear special rather than recognizing that you're special and your specialness does things.
That's a nice twist.
Reverse the game. One is always phony. One is always efforting out of some sort of unresolved energy. The other is just pure being. It's like we are. In fact, each of us is special, which means, of course, none of us are special. We're all just, individual units in the sonship. But if we've lost that connectedness, and then the ego mind is saying, well, if I do this, then that's propitiation, and that'd be a good place to apply forgiveness, because the person who gets cut off from your true specialness by propitiation is you yourself.
Well, the only safe place I can imagine being is absolutely by myself. I was going for a walk this morning, and I was just so happy to be outside in nature. And my son is feeling better, and my grandson, I hope, is feeling better. At least he's aware of mental things that he does. I was feeling that at this moment, life has never been better. And I was just reveling in loving being by myself, walking around in nature, noticing things, and feeling what John Brighton on our radio show talks about as the presence as best I can imagine. And I was thinking, but as soon as I'm with someone else, well, let me just start with a different story. This was a very unpleasant experience I had once. I was a member of a group I was in a kind of group therapy in a place called the Christian Counseling Center.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman came, a gifted woman, she was gifted as a psychic, was going to make an appearance at this place, and we could sign up to have a consult with her. And I'd signed myself right up and went into the room, and there were many chairs there. I said, "Where do you want me to sit?" She waved her hand. She didn't look at me. Just sit anywhere. She looked down, as like Jesus writing in the sand. And then she looked up at me and she said, "You are a game player. You wear masks. You are arrogant." She totally shredded me. And I left that room totally shredded. And, I keep telling you I don't cry much. I went into the other room, in the waiting room, where a lot of the other students were, and the leader of that Christian Counseling Center. And I was completely undone. I was sobbing. I was out of control. And a woman sat beside me, put her arm around me and said, "Oh, good. Now I get a chance to play mother." And I felt so humiliated, and as if the woman, the psychic, was absolutely right. She was right. I believed her. I was a hopeless case. So, I've never forgotten that. The only redeeming thing that happened after that was that she was still there, and another woman, this is another week, and she came to visit again, and she took another person into the room, and the same thing happened. The woman came out a wreck. And this woman came out afterward, after the customer had gone, and the psychic said, "That woman's a game player, and she's arrogant, and she's got to take off her masks." And I thought, holy shit, everybody's a mess, and this woman is worst of all. And I left.
Sounds like total projection.
Boy, oh boy, and I left the center. And it's true that it was even taking a physical toll on me. Tim was saying, "You don't look well. You look gray. You have trouble sleeping. I don't think this counseling center is good for you." So I have that experience in my past. And on some level, Michael, she really was right. Whoever I am is a construct of somebody beneath that. And because I have a body and a voice, I'm using tools to present myself. The self that I am, I have no idea. I like hearing what Dr. Tim says, is we are made of love, we come from love, we are love. I would love to believe that. And on some level, I accept that as the ultimate truth, but I can't imagine being that in this body, on this planet, without some kind of propitiation going on.
Course in Miracles has the answer for that one.
What does it say?
You need not seek for love. You need only seek, find, and release the barriers you hold within yourself against it. Let it in. Instead of, frozen, let it go, let it in. And the mechanism with which it enters is the breath. It's carried on the breath. And the only, it's that story you've heard me tell before about, Michelangelo, and somebody comes and asks him, how did you create such an awesome statue? And he said, well, David was always in there. I just chipped away what wasn't David.
Mm-hmm. That's a lovely thought.
And as you let go of, and I'd suggest that, you maybe jump on and do a worksheet or two, or maybe 10 around that psychic who sounds like, particularly since she used the same words to describe the next person, that
Yeah.
you can pretty much assure it was about her. It was about herself. That's one of the problems with psychics. Is the psychic tends to work from a construct in the mind, and the construct of their mind is always a reflection of what's in their physiology, what's in their structure. And so, and we all have many personas. I mean, that's what the word persona means. It's a mask. And, for me, the objective is to free ourselves of the mask, to get back and welcome into physiology the truth of who we are. And we've been, conditioned to turn over the experience of who we are to everybody else. And then, of course, when it doesn't work, then we've got somebody to blame. So I'd support you taking some of that time in nature to just be with the truth of who you are and let yourself really just receive that. It's a matter of, you heard me talk before about cultivating your relationship with love, with the truth of who you are. And then all that other stuff just becomes stuff rather than who you are. I mean, when we're trained that image in our mind is who we are, that's the self Yeshua said had to die, then we think that's who we are, but that's not who you are at all. None of that stuff is who you are. So really taking time, each day to cultivate that relationship with your own true self is, and of course that takes setting aside the masks, and nature's the perfect place to do that. But then come back where somebody can trigger you in the next level of work, the next layer that needs to be cleared out. And, it's no walk in the park, we're going to be done with this next week. It's when you realize that humanity has been conditioned for eons, your father and mother and my father and mother and their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents before them, to turn their power over to others. And that becomes the basis of this non-being self.
There are times, many times in my life, where I act before I think, and the outcome feels very good. It feels as if, well, I wasn't even conscious. I was just like a ball of enthusiasm or something. Or
sounds like you were in being.
Maybe, but then there's the questioning part afterwards. Not always, but I mean, if the outcome is good, I might not question it. I don't know, Michael. I'm just folding in on myself now. I don't know quite what to do. Like the idea that we can absolutely get rid of the wish to be special. Well, it's a thought. Sometimes I'm not thinking about being special. I'm just being. I guess that's what you said. Yeah. So.
And perhaps changing the word special here would be helpful. I don't hear you really saying you want to be special. What I hear is you want to be approved of.
Yeah.
Accepted.
Yeah, totally.
And so they'd be the goals to start to cancel.
Okay.
And let the false self that's built on that collapse. And, as the the Course talks about in that section on let go all the things you think you want, to be accepted, your trifling treasure, that goal put away. Now there's a clean and open space within your mind for you, Christ, to come.
Okay,
To arrive in your own physiology. Say again?
I have a different example that would help clarify this. We have a new minister. He's in his 40s at our church. Very loving, very energetic, wonderful preacher, very bright. And he was a church organist and singer before he became a priest. This is a man I could get one of my inappropriate attachments on. It seems a miracle that I haven't developed that kind of attachment to him. I just plain love the guy. But I don't think about him all the time, and I don't hope I'd love it if he liked me, and I figure he likes me well enough, but I'm not special to him. But he always treats me in a friendly way, and I just love being with him. Tim Bingham came home the other day, and he said, when you're around him, you're different. You put on an act, you're fawning. And I thought, that is weird. I know what fawning is. I've done plenty of it. But in his case, I'm not aware of doing anything like that. And so I thought, oh my God, even when I think I'm okay, I'm not, I'm screwing it up, even when I think that was a holy connection.
Or the alternative that I could easily imagine is that this person is a person who lives in being. And remember that line in the worksheet, when I choose love, it wakes up the love in everyone.
Yeah.
So in his presence is that permission for you to function truly out of being. And maybe you haven't, achieved that with Tim at this point. And so Tim sees that change in you, but I could easily hear, especially when you describe that, you're pretty clear you're not acting out of anything. Other cases, you're pretty honest with yourself that you are. I would say the opposite interpretation is probably what's correct. This man lives strongly enough in being that it's your permission to do the same.
Wow, I like that.
Does that feel accurate?
That sounds good. Yeah. I feel as if my energy around him is I'm not even thinking about it. It's pure. It's just natural.
And that's what we need. Yesterday our conversation was about critical mass. That's what we need, is people living in that. Enough that it gives not only everyone permission to do the same, but gives an energetic boost. So one who brings the true state of created essence into their physiology becomes a safe space for everybody else to do the same.
Well, Michael, don't you feel that that's the way you are when you meet a stranger? You meet a stranger on the street, and what you see is their shine. You don't know any about their garbage or games or masks or anything. You see this brand new person, like a newborn kind of. And I feel as if when I meet people on the street, I want to just smile at them and say hello, which I do. And sometimes Tim Bingham says, aren't you a little over the top on here?
No, I think that's being. I really think that walking through the world consciously, purposely extending love, just, that quote from Rumi about until you exhale love through your eyes as easily as your body yields its scent. To me, for me, that's a practice, walking, through the mall or down the street, going through a store, and purposely, consciously being that energy, bringing that energy forward as powerfully as possible. And I'll just say that there are times when I can tell, for me, when I'm more in that space and I'm not quite as fully in that space, because I can see the difference in people's response. Like I know, it's a practice that I've done, and I know when I'm fulfilling the practice because there's an energetic feedback that I get that is of a matching energy. It's the best way I can say it.
Well, you can also feel it, can't you? In yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But there are times when I can, even though it's a practice, there are times when I can tell that my practice is more genuine because the energetic feedback that comes from, just walking by someone, they don't speak, you don't speak, but there's an energetic acknowledgement that goes with it.
You call it a practice, but if it's really going, you're not practicing, you're just it.
Well, you're it, but consciously engaging it, purposely engaging it, purposely extending that presence of love.
Mm.
That's what I'm talking about as a practice. I mean, we could walk through the world as love and not be paying attention. But for me, I've used it as a practice to consciously, purposely be sending that love. And I use that idea from Rumi, extending it, exhaling it through my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm on, I feel the feedback from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm not quite so on, there just isn't the same feedback.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and I notice it. Like I can, it's like, ooh, I know I'm in alignment today.
Mm-hmm.
And other days, well, I'm not quite there, because I don't feel the feedback.
Mm.
That's been my experience of it anyway.
Thanks.
So that to me sounds more like what's happening with this priest. And of course, if that's true, then he's fulfilling his role as a priest. That's the whole idea of priesthood, was not somebody who can lord it over us, not somebody who can fix it for us, but someone who has done the work to walk in the world as, Yeshua walked in the world as the presence of love.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it's all about.
I've often worried that if I met Jesus, I'd get a crush on him, and that would be just a terrible mess. But I'm thinking, if this guy, who seems like a Christ figure, the energy is so clear, that's not going to happen. And I am a crush addict. I really go after. I mean, I am a junkie. I had a psychotherapist once tell me, you are a relationship addict or junkie or an affection junkie. And there are certain people that pop out that
Approval junkie?
A what?
An approval junkie?
Yeah, but it's attachment too. It's wanting permission to give them something too. And most people in my life don't fall in that category, and fewer as I get older and older and my hormones settle down, because I imagine it has to do with hormones or something. That's less.
All hormones are our thoughts. And there's no such thing as a hormone. I mean, it's always good once in a while, or regularly, to come back to the basic truth. So let's listen. Einstein said it very well. On such things as matter, we've been all wrong. What we've heretofore called matter is energy. Energy whose vibrations have been so low as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. If there is no matter, then there are no chemicals. A hormone is a chemical. So if there is no matter and there are no chemicals, there are no hormones. But what is there? There's mind energy. Mind energy, when the neuropeptide formed, when we think of thought, hits a cell, it shows up in the cell as what we call, with our measurement instruments, what we call chemistry.
Mm.
But all that hormones are, I mean, you look at somebody who's out there, in the culture, hitting on everybody they can hit on, and you listen to their conversation and you can hear the chemicals, you can hear the hormones are forming. Oh, I want to, and I want to, and I want to, and then I'm gonna, and then I want, and then somebody else, they're forming literal, on the level where we think of matter, chemicals that we'd say, oh well, that's a hormone, but it's nothing more than a thought.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm
And
taking my.
when we erase the thoughts that don't belong, the ones that are out of balance, then the whole game changes.
Well, remember Byron Katie once said, if I get a headache, it might be an illusion, but I do take an aspirin. So on this plane, I have to laugh because I've been on hormones for 3 years, and I'm thinking, I'm not throwing out those bottles. They've helped me sleep, and of course, this is all thought, isn't it? But I'm keeping the hormones. I'm keeping the little
Yeah,
bottles.
absolutely. I mean, I've had people who's, well, I have this disease going on and I know I can heal it with my mind. It's like, I really believe, I think you're right. I think you can. And in the meantime, there is an aspirin over there. You don't have to suffer through the headache.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you could maybe whatever you need to handle is going to take you 10 years to do it. Do you really need to put up with 10 years of headaches? No.
Right.
Or anything else. I know that I could move that glass of water over there and take a drink from it without touching it. Well, I believe that's true. We can do that with our minds. There are people who've been documented to do it, so obviously we can do it. But I'd probably die of thirst if I had to wait,
Right.
to do it with my mind.
Yeah.
So, we do what's operational in the world and develop the skills where we can develop the skills.
Well, thanks, Michael. That was a good discussion.
Can I just add one thing? Just what
Please, Susan, go for it.
Yeah, the culprit herself. You brought it up.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that was so needed what happened there. To know the truth but respect the illusion.
Nice.
Yeah, so that you're in the illusion and the essence of you knows the truth, but the mind maybe hasn't caught up yet. So we get to use what we need to use to yeah. And so thank you, and thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because yeah. I just wanted to Tim said, talking about being in the game, that we were all in the same game at the same level. And then I came on and said, yeah, I don't agree. But my energy was, I didn't even realize that he pointed it out, the charge around my response. And then it all came up about being special. So I definitely have worksheets to do. I've been sitting here mind shifting as you're talking. Lots of tears and stuff in it. Yeah. So what a beautiful thing to release, to find what that is all about, because I think that's been a big driver, just like you said, Susan B. Yeah. And I realized in my childhood, if I didn't stand out, then I got left behind, or it was a survival strategy.
Sure.
To stand out. So yeah, and I see that for some reason I've associated that now in my whole existence with relationships. I want to be special. That's and want to be seen as special, want to stand out, all of that. So I'm really excited to collapse that goal. And can you say it again, Michael, what you said? Because I didn't get a chance to write it down, about when you collapse the goal, because you said we are all special.
Yeah, my take would be there's a capital T, true special.
Yes.
So it's kind of like with the course, I wish they'd capitalized and lowercase the word world in that one lesson that I refer to all the time because it's so important. What is the world?
Yeah.
The world is false perception, lowercase w.
Yeah.
Think not you made the world. Uppercase W, what the creator created. Illusions, yes, we made up a whole lowercase world between our ears. And in the same way, because we're each the offspring of the creator, we're capital T, truly special. But the specialness that I hear the course talking about is, it's the ego jumping up and down and wanting its accolades and its false dues.
Yeah. So can you then give me, as you had said, the way you said it was really important, that we are special in our natural state. So that's automatic, I guess, when we get the ego out of the way, it happens naturally in our being. Is that
Well, that was so long ago. I mean, it's at least 2 minutes.
It is, I know. I wish I
But
would
it
have
is
written it.
recorded, so
Okay,
you
I'll
can
go
go back
back
and catch it. Jeanie will probably get this, loaded onto YouTube by
Yeah, I
tonight.
will go
But
back, and because that
yeah,
that when you said it, it really landed. It's just it is our natural state, but when
yeah,
the minute that you're wanting it, you're keeping it in separation because that's running from the disease mind versus the true mind.
right.
So
And the ego world has a cheap copy of everything real and true in the spiritual dimension.
oh,
And to recognize the cheap copy, and the ego self is always promoting its cheap copy. This is what you really want. This is what you really want. You want to be special, special, special,
no.
rather than taking a breath and allowing being to come through, which is the deepest layer of specialness possible because it comes straight through you from the creator.
Exactly. Yeah, this was a I had no idea when I did that how deep it just got right to a core. So that's going to be interesting as I peel that away. Thank
Well,
you.
and to me, the objective of the radio show is building this community where these are the types of things that can be uncovered, and there's just support for each of us moving through the layers.
Yeah,
Pretty
and like you
awesome.
said, it's a lifelong journey, and I just found you, so I've already done probably 300 worksheets at least. So, but yeah, there's just layer after layer after layer after layer, and holy cow! But I'm in the swim lane, like I keep saying, I'm in the swim lane. All I got to do is keep swimming.
There you go.
So, and well, yeah,
Awesome.
I'll be all prepped for November when I show up.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to it. Any other thoughts for you, Susan B?
No, I don't have any thought. Brain went silent.
Cool.
So I will just listen. Thanks.
All right.
For the
Appreciate you.
talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate you too. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay.
I appreciate
There's
how special you are.
Tammy wrote in the chat room, Michael, would you give me a mind shifter surrounding being special to my family members?
Okay. How about it's safe and healing, and I really appreciate it. It's safe and healing, and I really appreciate it when my family members and the people closest to me degrade me. It's safe and healing, and I really appreciate it when family members and the people close to me degrade me. To which your mind probably says, BS. Big one, hopefully. And as you start writing, drop into the deeper layers and see what it resonates for you. Does that resonate anything for you?
It does.
Are you
That's a
breathing?
good. I don't think I was. I was trying to write really fast. But I am now.
Good.
And
Breathe.
yes, thank you. These two shows today have been brought up a lot of stuff. So I'm excited to heal it.
Holding the space.
Thank you guys for the
What's
conversation.
moving? What's happening for you?
Just pain around. I don't know if it's special, but important is maybe more the being.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of words that would perhaps get you closer to the exact goal, and it might be being acknowledged, accepted, supported, cared for, nurtured. To me, all of those things, goals and languaged with all of those words would be would move in the direction of cleaning up that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, so maybe worksheets on all of those.
Yes,
Ooh,
each of those has a goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see which one or what all comes up when I do this mind shifter. And see where the worksheets are from that. Thank you.
All right, holding space. Celinda, you have a thought for us?
Of course.
Hey there, dear heart. How are you?
I'm good. I am just lapping up both of these radio shows. Thank everyone who has asked questions or made comments. And first of all, Michael, I so appreciate your sharing with Susan B. about your 50-year journey into total forgiveness around your issues with your daddy. I don't remember if I was speaking with you or Dr. Tim about 55 years. Maybe you can refresh my memory if it was you. I just realized within the last couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, that I have been holding on to the pain of my first husband's death for 55 years.
Mm.
And that I did kind of a worksheet around it, and I realized that that's the only way I knew to relate to my daughter, that I had to be connected to her because of that pain. And she was my only channel or source or reference point to keep the connection with my husband, who died 55 years ago. Okay. Wow. And this little voice, and I can't even remember whether I did a mental version of the worksheet, Dr. Tim's, or whether I sat down to start the worksheet on paper, and this little voice said, "How long do you want to be in pain?" And I went, "Oh, how about choosing joy instead?" And so I just want to share with you, it's like there's a different feeling now around that whole situation. Now I can have a true relationship with my daughter if she desires.
And with Larry.
So I thought, and with Larry. Yeah. That's changing a lot too. And of course, Myrtle the cat has been my reparenting mother. Ruha, bless her heart, has used Myrtle to give me a wake-up call about my mothering. And I am now practicing being a good mother to Myrtle, because I was doing the same thing to her that I did to my children. And
those power person dynamics are powerful, aren't they?
I know, aren't they amazing? And now we understand she's probably, she has kidney disease. We're going to choose not to treat her. She doesn't seem to be in pain, but she has the symptoms of possibly both diabetes and kidney disease. And I'm talking to her just like she was a human being, to the best of my ability, because I don't speak catese, but I'm talking with her about, telling her what the situation is and telling her we might have to put her to sleep, and telling her if she doesn't, we're bonding with her, we're not attaching to her. If she feels a need to leave, she's free to just go to sleep and not wake up, or whatever she wants to do, disappear, whatever she needs to do to take care of herself, as kitties would. But that's not, she doesn't have to do that. She can just stay with us till the end. Yep.
Letting go is not only beneficial for you, We had a woman that was at Heartland back, this is probably 20 years ago. And she had a son who, I don't remember now exactly, but it was several years earlier. Her son was a truck driver, and he was killed in an accident somewhere way out west, California. And she got in her car and drove out to the scene of the accident, and she found his shirt at the scene of the accident. It was whatever time later. And she held onto that shirt like that was her only way to connect with him. And when she came to an intensive, and this wasn't even something that was in her mind, and I don't remember what the mind shifter was. We used the numbering system. She selected a mind shifter, and what it resonated was her son. And she was writing the mind shifter, and all of a sudden, she found her hand was taken over by her son, and he wrote, "Mom, please get rid of that shirt. You're locking me in here, and I need to be released."
Wow.
So there's the other side of that as well. And then when you think about, any given issue, I can certainly imagine someone saying, "Well, wait a minute, Michael, you started to work on your relationship with your father 50 years ago and you just got finished with it. I think I'll forget about doing this work because it's obviously not very effective." However, when you realize, if it were just a matter of what happened between I and my father and what my realities were, what I need to deal with, that's one thing. But when you realize that these are dynamics that develop over generations and generations and generations, that if you're really fully going to work through an issue, you're going to have to go to the core of that issue. In the Native American language, they had a phrase if they went into, let's say, a sweat lodge for healing. On the entryway going into the sweat lodge, they would utilize the phrase "metakwiasan," which meant for all my relations. I'm not just doing this for me.
And that means all of my ancestors, my descendants, my human relationships, and nature itself, and
exactly.
The collective.
And if you look at the scriptural tradition, it's the generations doing it for all of the generations. What had to happen to get out of the state of unconsciousness that they called the desert in the Old Testament, the 40 years in the desert. It wasn't 40 years in a hot, sunny, sandy place that was 35 square miles. It was the unconscious. What had to happen to get out of the desert? The old generation had to die off. And it wasn't about old physical bodies, people in old bodies having to die. The root of the word generation is genari. It means cause. All of the causes had to be addressed. So when you realize if you're going to go to depth, it's not an overnight process for sure.
Even in the scriptures, I don't know if it's Yeshua, I think it is, it says something about even the very stones of the earth are crying out for the human to heal.
Exactly.
Because they suffer as well.
Yes, if there's suffering in the world, if one person is suffering then has entered the world and impacts everybody.
Yeah, because I feel that in the garden. When I go in the garden, I'm talking to my plants like they're babies or, people. In fact, when I was in Hawaii, I had a little old Japanese gentleman named Mr. Okasako, and he would say, "My name's Mr. Okasako. It's spelled the same way, frontwards and backwards." But he was this little pint-sized Japanese fellow, and he saw me hugging a papaya tree one day, and he came over and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm hugging my papaya tree. She's pregnant." And he couldn't wrap his head around it. He just walked away and said, "Oh, papuli, papuli." That means, "Oh, wow, this is a real crazy one." But he was like a little godfather to me. He looked after me all the time. I just wanted to share that.
Sweet.
And it's true because that's what you were saying about being, when we fall into the grace of being in the state of being, even if we're not consciously choosing that, that would be what I would call falling into the state of grace. It makes a difference than choosing. That's the practice, Michael. That's why I love what Bruce Lipton said about one of the most powerful ways to heal is repetition. And that seems to me my favorite way. Would you tell me that story again? Would you tell me that story again? So I wanted to share that too. Repetition seems to be my main venue. And the more ways I can hear it, the more different ways I can hear the same message from different points of view, the more it seems to sink down in deep.
Building the brain cells.
I'd love to share just one more thing before I get off and get out in the garden. That is, we were speaking with Susan B. about the breath. And I had mentioned this before, I believe, on your show, that as a yoga teacher, I began to notice people held their breath in different ways. When rage was their primary MO, when they were in hostility rather than fear, then they would tend to hold their breath on the in-breath. They wouldn't inhale in. And that's because as a martial artist, you learn that you better not have air in your lungs if you're going to attack somebody, because if they hit you in the lungs, your lungs could collapse. Those of us who chose the powerless route, the give up, helpless, hopeless route in order to survive, we tend to hold our breath, and I've noticed this with my students just by kind of observing them, on the out breath. We don't let our breath finish. We hold it back. And that's to give ourselves a sense of more power, because breathing in is receiving the energy, receiving the life source, the oneness. We're not going to do that. We keep trying to fill ourselves up and take it in, but we're not going to let go. So letting it in is not a problem for me in general, unless I'm highly triggered when I just stop breathing. But letting it out is a major challenge. And it doesn't matter really whether we hold the breath on the letting go or we hold the breath away from the letting in. It's all one circle of breath anyway. And I just wanted to share that, if that's any helpful for any of us at all.
Interesting observation.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my breath and I'm appreciating you all, and I'm very happy just to be me, and those mind shifters were excellent. It has to do about acceptance and nurture and allowance and being cared for, being appreciated, all of those things, sort of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we all need as children and as human beings. And we're all getting there, pulling each other up by our bootstraps.
Walking each other home.
Walking each other home. And honoring each other's individual path on the way.
Yes.
But there's only one way. And thank you. Much blessings and appreciation for all of us.
All right. You have a blessed day.
And you as well.
So we've got about 6 minutes left. Certainly somebody has another thought.
I have one that's kind of along the line of feeling the need to be special or whatever. And one of the conversations, I went to my school reunion. We have brunch once a month with whoever can show up. And one of the conversations was this one girl not understanding, that her former husband, he did all of the things that showed love, like being patient and kind and supportive and encouraging and things like that. And then after, I forget how many years, she said 24 years or whatever, that he seemed to become a different person and that his doing was not the same as who he really was. And that he was like faking to be special or to be accepted or whatever. And that really wasn't who he was inside. And it was like a conflict or whatever, and not understanding how someone can change like that. So it's a interesting conversation.
Sounds like she was describing power person dynamic.
Yeah.
We have this persona. Everybody, I mean, every person in the world that I know is a multiple personality. And the personality that is active, as long as we're functioning out of personality, is based on the level of stress we're under. I mean, there's little or no stress. We'll do whatever we did to get along with our power person. Stress starts to build, do whatever we did to resist and survive. Become ultra stressed, we'll do what our power person did. We hate it the most. If you perhaps have the opportunity to continue the conversation with her, you might invite her to look at what was the change in the goals, in the circumstances in their lives where goals were activated that put him into a higher level of stress. And that's where that persona change happens. That might help her to work through whatever the dynamics are, to understand and to be able to create a space to shift that whole process. But I don't know anybody that's in a multiple personality. And then, of course, there are people who are extreme multiples where, they induce a personality shift. There's one particular case, there's a researcher named Braun who was working with a woman who was a known multiple, and she had, in her normal personality, she had diabetes. And if she didn't get her insulin, she'd be dead. They took her into the lab. They're measuring all her stats. They induce a personality shift. And in this alternate personality, she has no diabetes. If they gave her insulin, it could kill her. Perception is structure. Structure is perception. Going beyond perception means that we bring in a whole new energy supply to physiology that totally and completely changes the game. So hold the space that perhaps she can see through whatever the challenges are of that kind of personality shift and bring healing to the family. And so if no one else has a thought, then I'm going to just invite everybody to just allow yourself to take a couple of deep breaths. And as you breathe in, allow yourself to tap into the deepest, cleanest, clearest presence of love that you can tap into. And as you do that, Allow that presence of love to touch and bring light to every cell in your structure. And as you look within and see every cell in your structure touched by that light, watch that light expand to literally engulf every cell of your structure. The breath go fully, empty your breath totally and completely. And as you take the next breath in, inhale complete life, complete love, complete grace into every cell. And notice as that light expands in you, it then expands out from you to touch all of the world around you. And that when you stand as that space of love, as Susan was describing with her priest, that space of love becomes a gift to all the world. A gift to your own cellular structure, a gift to your own life force. And a gift that strengthens all the world. Breathing with you and joining you in being that presence of love in your world. Thanks for being with us. Blessed.